My sister circles and I were out celebrating our Friendsgiving. We arrived at the restaurant. Shortly after arriving, we only had time to give drink orders. We didn't even get our drinks. And a physical altercation happened between two African American women. We did not know them. We were not affiliated with them. They were at another table. Shortly after arriving,
Somebody break it up.
This is sad, y'all.
they were at another table. They began to fight. The situation was diffused by management and other staff members. The management came over to our table and told us that they would not be servicing us tonight. We had to leave. I questioned, are you shutting the entire restaurant down for tonight? No, we're just not servicing you all because y'all like to fight. We became shocked, confused, and he did that in front of the entire restaurant, in front of all the other patrons. No one else was asked to leave but us.
You know what? This is the fact that I'm actually sitting here doing a reaction video to three women, some Oratchetangs. Let's not dignify them and give them any sort of cover by associating them with women. Okay, these are Oratchetangs. These are wild, feral individuals of the female persuasion that they get hungry from time to time, and it's hard. You can't like keep them caged up. So sometimes they get out, and of their own free will, they decide they want to dine. The thing about the feral Oratchetang female is that they have no social graces. They know nothing about decorum. They have no cultural standards or personal standards of their own. So the first thing I want to say about this, when I listen to this, I understand this woman's position. She's like, listen, we're out, me and my girlfriends, we're dining, and an unrelated party decides that they're going to fight. Okay. I don't know. The Alfredo, who knows what the heck they were fighting over. Probably something of the Oratchetang order. But they're fighting. She's like, we're not with them. We just came to hang out with our girlfriends. The fight breaks out, and then the restaurant comes to them and tells them that they need to leave. Well, to be honest, I can understand how this would frustrate anyone. But this happens due to a widespread abandonment of cultural standards and societal norms. So the first abandonment of the cultural standard and the societal norm that I noticed is, first, look at how the Oratchetangs, the ones who were engaged in the altercation, look how they were dressed. This is a restaurant in the Chesapeake Bay, Virginia, Norfolk area, something like that. I'm not sure. And it's on the higher end in terms of dining experiences. I am of the opinion that you need, in order to maintain a certain environmental standard in your establishment, you need a dress code. Because there's no way that Shorty in the pink body stocking would think that this is appropriate attire to go and dine at a fine dining restaurant, or any restaurant for that matter. I don't understand what is going on. Actually, I do. Culturally, there is something going on with us that we don't know how to read the room, and we don't even know, as adult females, what's appropriate and what's not, depending on the environment and the circumstance. You go out to eat in a body stocking, right? And then the other chick, they had to blur out because a whole booty is hanging out, which means she's wearing something that would necessitate a censorship patch on the video, because based on how she's behaving, her butt is hanging out, or worse, her lady parts. Restaurants, If you want to cut down on this kind of foolishness, you need to elicit some sort of standard. And that's not a standard that says we don't serve Black people here. It is a standard that says we are only interested in serving individuals who respect themselves enough to come out of the house dressed appropriately and dressed to impress, not dressed as if they're going, on the strip to sell some box, right? But they're going to dine. They respect themselves and they respect the establishment and others. I was recently traveling. I travel a lot these days. By God's grace, a lot of doors have been opened for me that allow me to go and to travel. And one thing I learned from my mentor very early on was that, first of all, he's like, if you're rolling with me, we don't relax our standards just because we're traveling. The standard is consistent and the same because it is a reflection of how you feel about yourself and the image that you want to portray to the rest of the world. It took one time for us to have that discussion. Not, April, you need to dress like this when you travel. It was just in the context of a broader discussion. I asked, do you always travel this way? And he was like, absolutely. I don't care how early the flight or how late the flight, I will always look the part because it is about how I want to present myself to the world and how I want the world to experience me. From that point on, I said, if I'm getting on a plane, I don't care if it's a red eye. I don't care how late it is. There are some minimum basic standards that I adhere to. So I was recently traveling. I was on my way to Phoenix. This was 3 weeks ago, maybe. Yeah, it was 3 weeks ago. And I had an 8 o'clock flight to Phoenix. And I was in first class. And I don't always travel first class, but when the opportunity presents itself, I do. And there was a white gentleman sitting next to me who had on sweatpants and a ball cap. He wasn't slovenly dressed, but he was just very relaxed and comfortable. And you know what he said to me? He said, how is it that it is almost 8 o'clock in the morning and you were just this put together? He was like, I'm like impressed. He was like, you look amazing. Like, I just wanted you to know I struggled to get out the bed and put this ball cap on and these sweatpants, but you look incredible. You know what I told him? I said, well, one, it has a lot to do. I said, when my grandmother would travel, she would travel this way. When my mother travels, she travels this way. And I said, just for me, I said, it is a standard. There is a minimum basic standard that I adhere to because it's about how I want the world to experience me. And I'm so pleased to see that you are enjoying the way you're experiencing me right now. He was like, wow, that's pretty incredible. And I'm saying that to say, because no matter everywhere I go when I travel, as soon as I get on the plane, I have not one time not had the flight attendants tell me, you look radiant this morning. You look amazing. Oh, I love that ensemble. Oh, girl, that black is black. And they always compliment me. The people at the ticket counter, the men that handle the baggage handlers. When I go into the restroom at the airport, the restroom attendant, somebody will always remark, not because the outfit is slaying. It's not that. Sometimes I will just wear a simple wide leg jumpsuit with a little blazer and a cute shoe. Sometimes I'll just have on a pair of slacks and a blouse. And sometimes I will have on like a midi dress, a long flowing dress with a cute little belt. I'm big on having a jacket because I get hot, so I want to have the jacket on. The whole ensemble is always put together because for me, it is not about comfort in that moment. It is about the standard. I recognize how our community, our culture at large is struggling to adhere to some basic standards. And because we've relaxed these standards, it impacts the way we act and interact with one another, and it impacts the way people receive us in the world. And so when I travel, it's just a personal commitment of mine. When my children travel, it is a personal commitment that they don't have a choice. We don't do bonnets. We don't do slippers. We don't do pajamas in public. We don't want the world to look at us and say, who dragged the trash out? Did they just roll out of bed and decide to show up to this event or to come out? It's the same way here. With that said, I understand this woman says this was humiliating and this was embarrassing. But the problem is the collective, the African Americans, y'all always want to be judged as a group and as a collective. You always speak with these plural pronouns, these collective pronouns, we and us and our. But yet, when something happens, such as this, where certain individuals are acting a plumb fool, now all of a sudden you want to be judged as an individual. It is no longer about the sisterhood. It is no longer about the collective. I am not saying that what the restaurant did was correct. They probably made a very bad move. But as a former retail owner establishment, I probably did the same thing. I'd be like, you know what? All y'all get out. All of y'all get out because all y'all do is like to fight. In the heat of the moment, not thinking through the implications of what I'm saying in that moment, I could see myself making the same decision. Y'all got to go too because all y'all like to fight. All y'all like to fight. You don't like to tip. You overeat. You overstay. You're welcome. You stay too long, you hold up the table, you're loud, you decide you want to twerk in the middle of the meal. I mean, y'all have heard, we all are aware of the stereotypes associated when you see groups of Black women dining together. Don't sit here and act like you don't know. Now, that may not be you and your friend circle, but I can absolutely tell you when me and my girlfriends go out to dine, we go out of our way before the meal commences to let the hostess know, to let the servers know, we are so excited to be here and experience your establishment. Please tell us what's good on the menu. We're not trying to be a whole problem and a whole headache because all we want to do is dine and eat and have a good experience. But you know what else is different? We don't show up looking homeless and slovenly dressed. We have a certain decorum about ourselves. We understand the nuances and the etiquette of being out in public. You don't act a whole fool. You keep your voice down. Keep your conversation localized just at your table. Everybody around the whole restaurant don't need to hear about what you're talking about. For this woman, I'm going to move it aside from this group because I understand it's frustrating and it's embarrassing and you're like, we weren't even included. But this is where we are now. This is where we are. We did this to ourselves. You know why? Because not enough of us go out of our way to differentiate ourselves from the Oratchetang. And you provide cover and you make excuses for the Oratchetang behavior. And so now, when it actually impacts you, now it's a problem. I can tell you, I don't have anything in common with those Oratchetangs. Nobody is ever going to confuse me with the Oratchetang culture. They're just not. We're not the same. I have nothing in common with these people. I don't fight and advocate for anything for this group because they are shameful and they should be ashamed, but they're not. They are embarrassing. They do pull down the entire cultural ethnic expression of Black women in general. And so in order to ameliorate that or to combat that, you actually have to have a large enough group of Black women who push against that and show the world something else that is not that. There are always three sides to a story. Your side, their side, and the truth. I'd be curious to hear exactly from the restaurant's perspective what was actually said. Because listen, no shade, but women lie and embellish a lot. They leave out facts, they leave out details. And I'd be curious to know if they actually said the words, y'all got to leave because y'all like to fight. I mean, if they did, that would be funny. It'd be messed up. But where's the lie? Because y'all do. Y'all do like to fight. You fight in your own homes. You fight your men. You fight your children. You fight everybody. You're just the most unpleasant group of people to be around. That's why I ain't got a whole lot of y'all in my friend circle. I don't. I got 2 main girlfriends, Keisha and Shanice. You know who you are. Everybody else, y'all are adjacent to me, but I'm just saying. So here's what I will say. There is another video surrounding this to see what the news
Now,
has
a
to
place
say.
in Chesapeake known for fine dining was the backdrop for some rude behavior that got physical. These images of 2 women fighting from earlier this month are making the rounds on social media. But the story is a group of 9 other women who say they were kicked out of the restaurant in what they call an act of discrimination. Markeisha Jackson has the story you'll see only on 10.
I agree. It was an act of discrimination. It was an act of discrimination on the basis of behavior that's exhibited typically from individuals who share their ethnic expression and gender. I mean, it doesn't even make sense to try to make excuses for it or dance around it. That's exactly what happened. You were discriminated against, and to be fair, I don't see anything wrong with that. If I have a business, I reserve the right to refuse service from whoever I want. I just think a private business should be able to do that. But we live in a world where we're forcing people to accept things and situations and circumstances that they don't want to. And they're the ones that have to bear the brunt of the consequences thereof due to some forced legal or legislation that says you gotta serve everybody. Sometimes I don't think that is true. My thing is y'all so educated and y'all earning so much money. Y'all need to start your own restaurant so you can deal with your own selves for a change. That's what I think.
That fight happened inside of Cork Bull Chop House. After things settled down, a group of other women who were not involved in the fight were told they had to leave the establishment, a statement they feel was made based on the color of their skin. What was supposed to
Actually, it was more the color of the skin has something to do with it, but it was more so the behavior, the content of the character of people who just previously displayed behavior that nobody wants to be around. And so the business made a judgment call, like, since people like you act like this, I'm lumping you in together. Had this happened to me, I'd be like, this is a darn shame. But you know what it would have done? Had this happened to me and my 2 girlfriends would have gotten kicked out of a restaurant because some other idiots decided to act a fool, it would lead me to be like, this is why we've got to hold one another accountable. Because now your foolishness, your ridiculous antics is now spilling over into my life and it's now affecting me. So now we have a problem. So my thing is, why didn't you address these women? Why didn't you either call the police? I'm not saying that you didn't. But something happened to make this restaurant believe that you either were like them or there was a high propensity for what happened with them to happen with your group too. I could be wrong. I'm open to being wrong. I am not saying that discrimination should be widespread. What I am saying is that these are the unintended consequences of having this type of behavior go unchecked by our own. You're not going to see Roland Martin admonishing Black women about this kind of behavior. You're not going to see Willie D. You're not going to see none of the pro-wokity woke blackity blacks, Joy Reid, Jamel Hill, Tiffany Cross, Mark Lamont Hill. You're not going to see any of the pro-wokity woke blackity black social justicians denounce this behavior and call black women to a higher standard. You're not going to see it happen. So since you don't want to do it, you don't want to regulate and provide guardrails and set a minimum basic standard for your own community, other people are doing it for you. Don't hate the player, hate the game. I'm not saying it's okay. What I'm saying is this is where we are, and it doesn't matter how you feel. You need to deal with what is. This is the reality now. Overwhelmingly, too many of our women have placed the community in the crosshairs because the community hasn't been the one to check the community. So this is what you have to deal with. It done barked up your tree. Don't feel good, does it? Doesn't feel good to have people looking at you side-eyed, wondering if you're going to pop off at the table and act a fool. Look at this, a bunch of animals. I mean, the fact that these women thought it was appropriate to come out the house with a whole body stocking on, a pink one at that, with her stomach and her back rolls and back fat and bad BBL just all exposed and hanging out for the world to see. Here's my thoughts and my take on this situation. I am not excusing the bad judgment call made by the restaurant, but I am tired of people always pointing the finger, worried about how other people, are treating you, and you're like, you're saying this doesn't have anything to do with you. My question is, at what point are we going to hold ourselves accountable? Well, you're going to notice, there are two things that I want you to notice. I want you to notice that there's one individual, I'm going to let this play some more, and she's like dabbing her eye as if she is crying. And then I want you to listen to what the attorney representing these 9 women say.
Women seen throwing blows ultimately left before authorities arrived, but somehow restaurant staff thought these 9 women who were still inside were somehow involved and told them to leave too.
So I asked why. And he responded saying, because you all like to fight. And they made us leave and get up in front of all the other patrons in the restaurant.
We were really in like a negative spotlight at that moment, and it was all eyes on us. It was very embarrassing.
The 9 ladies are now pursuing legal action. Their lawyer sat down with us.
Just because you have employees that might have made a bad judgment one night, that could turn into 2 nights, 3 nights, 4 nights. It has to stop.
The women say the restaurant staff has not reached out to provide an apology or update.
All 9 of these ladies were treated more harshly than the 2 people who were actually engaged in the misdemeanor action.
Their lawyer says they want accountability and justice.
We can say this is discrimination. We can say this violates the Equal Protection Clause. They have said enough is enough, and we're not going to take it.
Treat your customers with dignity and respect.
We did reach out to the owners of Cork Bull Chop House as well as the general manager for comment, but we have not heard back. In Chesapeake, Markeisha Jackson, 10 on your side.
Here's the deal. You heard from the attorney representing the 9 women. I've not heard her disavow the behavior of those Oratchetangs. I've not heard any of the 9 women disavow, and attempt to distance themselves from the behavior of these 9 women outside of saying that we weren't with them. If we want people to treat us different, not only do we need to work harder in terms of how we present ourselves and change the cultural perception surrounding Black women, but until we start holding ourselves accountable and y'all break the sister code that says the behavior of the women in that restaurant was so embarrassing. You should have been more embarrassed, not because you were asked to leave, but you should have been more embarrassed because an event or a situation happened by women who look like you, and it spilled over, and it's now affecting you and how you show up in the world and how people engage with you, because now they want you to leave on the basis of the fact that you look just like them. Had it been me and they asked me to leave, I'd be like, listen, I get it. I think it's highly discriminatory that you want me to leave, but here's what I will say. The behavior experienced by those women, no one should have to own a restaurant and have to be worried about something like that happening in their establishment. I am sorry that that happened. It is unacceptable. They don't represent, we are not them. And it's a shame that in this moment right now, where you are angry that the entire vibe in your establishment has been impacted by their behavior, we will leave. We will leave because we don't want to be somewhere where we're not wanted. But I can absolutely tell you that I stand in agreement with, I am disavowing this behavior, and it should be frowned upon. And I am now going to speak up to talk to the women in my community, and I'm going to hold them accountable. Now, one time did we see the attorney attempt to hold these women accountable and to talk about how shameful and disrespectful and uncouth and ghetto their behavior was. And then the 9 women here, they want to now be, these women strike me as the type that represent the 92%. The 92% of the women in our community who overwhelmingly support Oratchetang behavior, and support politicians such as Kamala Harris, who clearly doesn't have a problem with, like, I'm trying to understand why y'all upset. Now, I can't prove that these women here are a part of the 92% that voted for Kamala Harris, but typically groups of Black women all hanging out together like that, doing a Friendsgiving, they're probably part of the 92%. I guarantee you they're not a part of the 8% that's out here actively working hard to shun this kind of behavior and to let the watching world know that we are not them. They are other. We disavow, we don't want to be anywhere near or associated with behavior like that. And so much so that not only do we attempt to hold those women accountable, but we go out of our way to make sure that people don't confuse us with them. I go out of my way to make sure that I am not confused with those kind of women. What I am interested in knowing is, where was the public backlash and outcry from those women against the behavior that they witnessed? They still didn't hold the sisterhood accountable. They still have said nothing in terms of saying it is unacceptable that when we go out to eat, now we have to be lumped in with you because y'all don't know how to act. I didn't see that happen. Well, at the end of the day, this is where we are. People are putting, or what I would say, they should put some sort of guardrails in place to protect their own business. So if that means there needs to be a stricter dress code, you can't come in wearing spandex and leggings and athletic wear to a fine dining restaurant. You cannot show your midriff. We don't want to see the small of your back unless it's in a cocktail dress with some sequins or some rhinestones. Okay? I'm just saying, if you own a restaurant and you want to appeal to a higher caliber of people, you need to put some standards in place. You need to put some standards in place and refuse the right to serve anyone that doesn't meet that standard. That'll take care of a whole lot of this situation. But I'm curious to know, what do you guys think? I'm sure you guys would agree that the restaurant asking these Black women to leave was discriminatory based on what they just experienced by a group of their kind. However, are you buying the fact that that is what the restaurant actually said? Is there more to the story? Was there more discussion and an exchange in a conversation between the group of Black women that were asked to leave, who were not associated with those who were fighting? Is there more to it? I think that there probably is. And so it's difficult for me to really fully assess and give my commentary without knowing exactly what was said by who. As it stands now, the restaurant is probably so done and frustrated. Listen, I've owned a business before, and I know what it's like to be like, I really don't give a darn what you think about me, and I don't ever want you to come here ever again. We just want you to go. I know what that's like, but I also know what it's like to have guilt by association and to feel a heavy burden on yourself to have to overcompensate and go above and beyond what you would normally do so that you don't get grouped and lumped in with the matriarchal miscreants of our kind. But whatever it is that you guys think, let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.